Today on Public Eye News, Southwestern Michigan man faces 15 charges after poached bucks found, and later, rare first printing of U.S. Constitution sells for $43 million.
Later, Brady Hinshaw will have your weather for the weekend, and Michael will have your sports update. Hello, I'm Beck Brewerly.
And I'm Michael Cudahy, and this is Public Eye News. Michigan health officials are urging all Michiganders over the age of 2 to wear masks when indoors during the holiday season. Officials also urge that businesses put in place policies that keep customers and employees masked. 73 and 72% of Michigan's COVID cases and hospitalizations are by those that are not vaccinated or not fully vaccinated, along with 76% of COVID deaths. And in some hunting news, don't poach. Justin Ernst, a Van Buren County man, is being charged with 9 counts of taking game illegally, 4 weapons counts, along with hunting with an expired license and obtaining a hunting license when ineligible. If found guilty, Ernst faces up to $59,500 in reimbursement to the state. Ernst also has a prior DNR conviction in 2018 for illegally taking or possessing a white-tailed deer. And a jail in southeastern Michigan is doing what it can to prevent opioid overdoses for inmates upon their release. Oakland County Jail in Pontiac is offering naloxone, better known as Narcan, to all inmates either for personal use or for a member of their family with a dependency. The Narcan project, through Wayne State University's School of Social Work and its Center for Behavioral Health and Justice, Oakland County has used Narcan on 124 occasions through October of this year.
A judge has dismissed the disposal charge against crematory owner O'Neill Swanson. If convicted, Swanson would face 10 years in prison and a $50,000 fine. A cease and desist order was released this June for the crematory. Authorities began investigating the crematory after the state received complaints about excess smoke, improper storage of cadavers, and bodily fluids leaking onto the facility floor. Swanson's funeral home in Flint was shut down in 2017 after maggots were found in the garage where unrefrigerated bodies were stored. Officials later determined prepaid funeral licenses to be sold without a proper license. His mortuary science and mortuary science establishment licenses have since been revoked. The Wisconsin Supreme Court has rejected a request by Stephen Avery to review his conviction for killing a young photographer in 2005. The case has come under the public eye ever since Netflix created the series Making a Murderer. His latest appeal asked the court to review 3 issues: failure to disclose evidence, destruction of bone fragments, and ineffective assistance to counsel. The court on Wednesday denied Avery's petition without commenting. Minnesota farmers produce around 45 million turkeys annually and will benefit from higher prices
This year. According to agricultural experts, there has been a rise in demand following a year with fewer family gatherings and restaurant traffic due to the pandemic. However, the profits are cut down after accounting for the substantially higher prices in corn and soybeans, the primary ingredients in turkey's feed. Last Friday, the USDA's market news report showed that smaller 8 to 16 pound turkeys were selling for $141 a pound, up from $115 the year prior, a 22% increase. Don't touch that dial. We'll be back with your national and international news.
In Utah, a record number of police shootings.
When you start gathering data, the patterns start to become clear.
It's a problem throughout our whole state.
Frontline and the Salt Lake Tribune investigate training.
Do not hesitate.
Accountability.
Sometimes police are required to use force to protect the public.
And racial disparities.
We want to know why police officers are using this power.
Shots fired, suspect down.
Tuesday night at 10 on WNMU-TV.
And welcome back. A rare first printing of the U.S. Constitution was sold at Sotheby's in New York for $43.2 million. The record price for the book or document purchased at auction was purchased by an anonymous buyer who outbid a group of 17,000 crypto enthusiasts who banded together to try and buy the document. The document was last purchased in 1988 for $165,000. It is one of 13 known originally printed copies of the United States Constitution. Bill Gates set the previous record at auction when he bought the Codex Leicester by Leonardo da Vinci for $30.8 million. And in some breaking news, Kyle Rittenhouse was found not guilty of all counts today in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Rittenhouse was 17 years old when he shot and killed 2 people and wounded a third. He's being tried as an adult and was told to be mindful of what he says in the media and was the jury themselves. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers said that there were 500 National Guard troops ready to be deployed in Kenosha if needed. And in today's Eye on Entertainment, actor Will Smith describes his worst moment making the new movie King Richard. Anthony Pura has more on our entertainment news.
Will Smith says the worst 2 hours of his life were waiting to hear if Venus and Serena Williams liked his new movie about their father. The actor dropped by Wimbledon before the London premiere of King Richard and said the tennis superstars gave him a thumbs up.
So they loved it. They put their names on it. So, you make a film about someone's life. You want the people that are depicted to enjoy it.
King Richard arrives in U.S. theaters today.
You forget that I work here. I'm not a customer.
On tonight's Magnum PI, Zachary Knighton is asked to assist with a federal investigation into his childhood friend. The actor came up with a story for this episode, and since he's a real-life surfer, he made sure to include a scene riding the waves.
I'm always trying to think of a fun new case or a fun new mystery or what can we do to get things exciting around here. So I was lucky that they liked my idea and let me play.
Magnum PI airs tonight on CBS and is available to stream on Paramount+. And House of Gucci will arrive in theaters next week, just in time for Thanksgiving moviegoers.
This is serious.
Lady Gaga and Adam Driver star in the fashion world story of betrayal, revenge, and murder. Jared Leto plays one of the Gucci cousins and says he spent 6 hours each morning in the makeup chair. That's your Eye on Entertainment. Anthony Pura, CBS News, Los Angeles.
The British government stated on Friday that it intends to ban the Palestinian militant group known as the Hamas, categorizing the group as a terrorist organization, saying it will no longer differentiate between the group's political and military wings. A ban, which must be approved by Parliament, would make it illegal in Britain to be a member of Hamas or show support for the group. This includes flying its flag or wearing a T-shirt to that end. The maximum penalty would be 14 years in prison. The United States is warning pilots that planes operating at one of Africa's busiest airports could be directly or indirectly exposed to ground weapons fire or surface-to-air fire. As Ethiopia's war nears the capital, Addis Ababa, diplomatic efforts to stop the fighting have met resistance, but Kenya's president has told visiting U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken that Ethiopia's prime minister gave the impression that he was ready to consider several proposals to ease tensions and reduce violence. Green beer is something you usually only serve around St. Patrick's Day, but a brewery in Australia wants people to start sipping every day to help fight climate change. CBS's Ian Lee explains from London.
Looking around this brewery, something might seem out of place. Green tanks of bubbling algae are probably more fitting in a mad scientist's laboratory.
It's mind-blowing.
But Australian brewer Oscar McMahon is harnessing the algae to make green beer. Not in the way you're thinking.
The algae is just part of the production process. It never touches the beer. This is not green beer.
During the beer's fermentation process, carbon dioxide is released.
Basically, the CO2 is then ingested by the microalgae.
So instead of floating off into the atmosphere, the greenhouse gas is captured and fed to the algae, producing oxygen.
For combating climate change, algae capture CO2 up to 400 times more efficiently than a tree.
The more CO2, the more algae. And all that green stuff is not just thrown away.
This is the grain left over from the brewing process. This currently goes out as cattle feed.
Scientists say adding algae to cattle feed reduces the gas cows pass, which means less methane in the air.
Happy anniversary.
Amanda Thompson likes doing her part for the planet, 1 pint at a time.
So we're happy to have a beer, have a chat, change the world.
All the while toasting to a greener future. Ian Lee, CBS News.
And after this, Brady Hinshaw will have your weather update, and I will be back with your sports update. Stay tuned.
On Cool the Midwife.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Lee.
The cast and creators of Cool the Midwife look back at the last 10 years.
We tell stories which are quite emotional and challenging at times.
There have been so many wonderful scenes over the last 10 years.
It's very, very special, this show.
You mark my words, the joy of midwifery never dims.
Cool the Midwife.
Sunday night at 8 on WNMU-TV.
And welcome back. I'm your weatherman, Brady Hinshaw. Behind me on this NMU campus, the snow is melting, but that won't remain. But if we look at our current conditions, we have partly cloudy skies with a temperature of 35 degrees, winds out of the south at 4 miles an hour, and a barometric pressure of 29.71 and rising. Looking towards tonight, we have cloudy skies with a low of 32, winds out of the south at 15 miles an hour. Looking towards tomorrow, we have more partly cloudy skies with a high of 41, winds out of the south at 9 miles an hour. Now, if we look at our current conditions, it's a mixed bag of the weather, but if we look at Sault Ste. Marie, it's 37, Manistee is 39, Escanaba is 38. If we look at our western half, we have 36 down in Menominee, 32 in both Iron Mountain and Ironwood, 33 up in Houghton, and back in beautiful Marquette, it is 36. Now, if we take a look at our week ahead, we have Sunday a high of 40 and a low of 22 and with some snow. Monday is some more snow with a high of 28 and a low of 20. And Tuesday is a high of 39 with a low of 33 and mostly cloudy skies. Now on to Michael with those sports.
Hi there. The Atlanta Falcons are still struggling to keep the New England Patriots from scoring 25 unanswered points. Most famously, they did that in the Super Bowl a few years back when they blew a 28-3 lead. But last night, Nick Folk went 4 for 4 last night in field goals. As the New England Patriots defense smothered the Falcons offense, forcing Matt Ryan to throw 2 interceptions. And a former high school superstar was set to make his return to the Xcel Energy Center last night. Riley Tuft from Blaine, Minnesota, was set to play the Wild as a member of the Dallas Stars. The former first-round pick was placed as a healthy scratch an hour before the game. The Wild then annihilated the Stars and former Wild assistant captain Ryan Suter, 7-2. Rem Pitlick stayed hot and scored the opening goal as Kirill Kaprizov got his 4th of the year to make the game 2-0 at the end of the first. Ryan Hartman, a former Dallas Star himself, scored his 8th goal in the year and continues to be one of the best contracts in the NHL. Jacob Peterson and Jamie Benn got the only goals for the Stars, and Tuft's families and friends were in attendance on his dime and that of fellow Blaine, Minnesota product Nick Bukestad. Jake Ottinger was brought in for 6 minutes, another Minnesotan in the NHL. And Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton lost their bid for a review of a defense tactic that Max Verstappen used during the Brazilian Grand Prix. Verstappen could have been given a grid penalty in this coming Qatari Grand Prix or been given a 5-second penalty in Brazil, which would have dropped him down to 3rd, further reducing the small 14-point gap between the two drivers in the Drivers' Championship this season. And he went and we won't be on air next week as we will be home for Thanksgiving. We wish you a happy week with your family, and we will be back Monday, November 29th. So, Beck, any big plans for the holidays?
Spending time with the family, gorging myself on some turkey, etc.
Not a big turkey guy, but I love some gravy on mashed potatoes.
Looks like that's all we have for today, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in. This has been Public Eye News. I'm Michael Cudahy.
And I'm Beck Burley.
Have a great weekend.
The preceding program was produced by WNMU-TV, Northern Michigan University Public Television, in studios located in Elizabeth and Edgar Hardin Hall.